I am not Latina. Yo no soy Latina. Simply speaking, the Spanish language does not make me part of Europe. Speaking English doesn't make me part of Europe. These two languages have been forced on my people for the last 500 years. Whether you are from Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guatemala, a reservation in Arizona, Mexico City, you have been kept ignorant, subservient to European culture. We are victims of colonialism. A colonialism that began in 1492. We are not the children of Cortez. We are not the people that came on La Pinta, La Niña, La Santa Maria. We have nothing to do with Spain. We are the indigenous people of this continent who are falsely called Hispanic and Latino as a way to kill our indigenous identity and history. We are supposed to disappear like the wind. We are supposed to shatter like the damn ground that we walk on. We are supposed to be turning into ashes. We're not supposed to exist. This is not part of the game plan for the Europeans. And here we are, ignorant of who we are, dyeing our hair blonde, hating who we are, putting blue-green eye contacts, watching novelas of a bunch of bleach blonde women being served by full-blooded indigenous people. Spanish is being glamorized as the most exotic language, and we take pride in it as if it belonged to us. As if our people weren't killed to speak Spanish, like if our people weren't forced to speak Spanish, like if our people weren't raped for the last 5 centuries to exist as Spanish-speaking slaves of Europeans. Whether you speak English or Spanish, those languages are not us and they do not define us. You see, before we spoke English and Spanish, we were actually speaking languages that reflected us, like Nahuatl, Yoemi, Quiche. We spoke languages that reflected who we were. We had languages, we had names that reflected who we were. We had a worldview that reflected on us, the reflection of the Creator. But these last 5 centuries of systematic ignorance and this education that only reinforces white supremacy has us confused, lost. But we are here. We are the survivors of the world's biggest genocide, where 95% of our population was wiped out. And yet we have no idea. We have no clue. Our parents don't know. They have been working so hard in the fields. A lot of them didn't even finish preschool, middle school. But here we are, survivors, in our own right, in our own land, homeless on our own land. We are Nicantlaca. We are the indigenous people of this continent. We have been divided by false borders. We have been divided by false languages. We are working in the Mexica movement to create an establishment, this unity, the Tahuantinsuyo Nation, Mexica movement, all the way from North and South America. This is our continent, separated by European borders. We walk ignorantly of who we are. We look down on the ground and don't even realize that it is ours. We are the Nicantlaca people, and we are learning the truth. Mexica movement, we invite you. Join us in this liberation, the true decolonization of our mind. We are colonized. We do not accept it. We have to fight it, resist it, with everything that you have. We are not products of Europe. We are not the children of Cortez. We are not the people that came on La Niña, La Pinta, La Santa Maria. We are the indigenous people that stood before them for 5 centuries. This is who we are. But we're taught to be fake white people, a fake imitation of who they are. But we're not. No matter how hard we try to be white, our ancient connection is far too deep to be bleached away by self-hate. Let's love ourselves. Let's learn who we are. Let's decolonize ourselves. Brothers and sisters, Mexican, Central American, South American, Native American, we are one. One people under occupation by European colonization. We are not Hispanic. We are not Latino. We are not Indians because we are not from India. We are the indigenous people from this land. We are Nican Tlaca. We are Nican Tlaca. Nican Tlaca. We are the survivors of the biggest genocide. And we are making sure that we not only survive, but that we wake up and begin to live a true liberating life.
The people now called Negroes are the most powerful and the least understood of the world's people.
This term, Negro, demoralizes us and is it detrimental. I feel that it doesn't give us any association past the slave ship.
I think that the first task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself. And this word has no meaning, or no worthwhile meaning at all, in Africa. I would doubt myself if it has any useful meaning anywhere else.
Hey, you're on. This is a new camera, so.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, I just wanted to. That was funny. I just wanted to ask the difference between a national and a United States citizen. Is there one?
Excellent question. Yes.
Simple.
United States citizen is somebody under the corporate jurisdiction of the United States and is listed on the NASDAQ as human capital, which means that they are technically the inbred or the perpetual preferred stock of the United States corporation, which means that they're not listed as real people. They're not listed as real people because the United States has them listed as human capital. You can look it up. Human capital means the same as a bunch of ones and zeros. These are not, they don't look at you as an individual living soul because the state is set up as a corporation. And all corporations in the world have been put under the jurisdiction of the Roman Curia since 1213. People think that the Magna Carta and that the Constitution of the United States was basically broke that yokehold that the Vatican or the Pope had on the world, but it did not. Unless you can declare that you are outside of the so-called corporate state, that's when you become a national. Once you become a national, what you are saying is that you are representative by a free national association, i.e. a free national government that is connected to a Republican form of government, which is a representative form, meaning that you are of the land by which you were born. And according to the laws of nationals all over the planet, we all basically are a part of the family of nations. So when you are a national, you are in the family of nations. When you are a citizen of the United States, you are under the United Nations, which means that you are a quasi-corporate slave that is under the jurisdiction of an illegal government. The United States is an illegal government, or is seen as a rogue government, because it is not actually a country. It is a corporation. You can go online to the Delaware Corporations website, and you will see that the United States is listed as the United States of a corporation. And when you look at its status, it's going to say either delinquent or bankrupt or into receivership. So as a national, if you want to be recognized as a human and have divine rights, you have to deal with nationality. If you want to deal with the privileges, meaning they give you privileges, like the same way you would give a privilege, is like the way that they look at it is like if you had a dog and then you basically feed the dog dog food every day, and then one day you give them a privilege.
It's gonna look at her.
Yeah. And then once you have the privilege, you want to give the dog a privilege. So what you do, instead of giving them meat one day, you give them like a doggy treat. That's a privilege. You know what I'm saying? So that has nothing to do with your divine rights as a human being. You have been given what's called unalienable rights, meaning that you were created in the image of the Most High. Therefore, you come from a celestial genetic inheritance that has been passed down to you through your DNA. That form of inheritance is called the epigenetic transgenerational inheritance. That only somebody that's flesh and blood, a living soul, who believes in the higher realms of society can exist in. That's what a national basically is. Somebody that cannot be ruled over by any government of man, period. However, you're dealing with people who want to now take the national idea out and make you into a naturalized person. To be naturalized means that you are given the rights and privileges of the original people of the land as if you were them, but you are not them. Therefore, you have to be managed. You understand what I'm saying? So when you hear more of the manager, right? So the manager is the trustee, who is the United States government that's got you listed as a slave under it, so that way it can tell you what to do and make money off of you, whether you're dead or alive. A national is somebody that don't have to deal with none of that. That's somebody who understands that I, self-law and master, is within them. The true government of the world, or the true temple, exists within, so saith the Lord. So you put out certain memorandums and stuff like that let these people know that they can't tread on your liberty. However, that's not popular. That's not popular. No, because the whole idea of nationalism has been co-opted into things like black nationalism or Moorish naturalization, which then is really an oxymoron, because there's no way as a Moor you're already born on the square. You're already born. You're not even talking about being a Moor. What can this be? What I'm saying for anybody, like, let's say not a color, you know what I mean? Like if you're from Jamaica and you want to come here to the United States, they're gonna make you naturalized. You understand what I'm saying? But the Mexicans got the right idea. They flipping it. They're hooking up with Moors, and they're actually getting their status or their national identity related to their ancestral relations to us through the old Moorish Empire. They on it. You know what I'm saying? What about people from like Israel? Right. People from Israel. They created a whole fake nation for them. They killed over 600,000 so-called Jews to give them the right to go in there and kill over 700,000 Palestinians for them to set up the illegal state of Israel under Zionism. There's more Jewish people in the world that's against Zionism and against Israel than is for it. Netanyahu came out the other day and was talking about how Hitler wasn't even the one who called for the final solution. The one who called for it was this dude they referred to as the Mufti of Berlin. If you get the DVD that I did called Black Nazis, I get into him and all of that. And the irony in that was that that guy was a Khazarian Jew as well. So again, what we're talking about is when you're dealing with a national sense, you're dealing with the truest aspect of your governmental representation as being a representative of the original family of nations, meaning that you come from the original inhabitants that existed in all the free national governments in the world that consolidated themselves as an empire, right? That eventually consolidated itself into a trust known as the United States of America and Congress Assembled. If you want to be a natural, that means you want to be a citizen of the United States, which means that you are the liquid property of Washington, D.C. So that means they can kill you, they can rape you, they can do whatever they want to do to you, and they don't have to worry about no repercussions. The reason why no other world government has come to the aid of the so-called black man and black woman in America is because you can't go to somebody else's country and take their property. And right now, black men and black women in this country are listed as property. Whether you like it or not, whether you don't like me for saying it, it don't matter. You are listed as a piece of property, human capital on the NASDAQ. If you don't own yourself, own your estate, own your free national name, if you do not know what your DNA represents, if you do not know any of these aspects of yourself, they're going to play you the way they play everybody else.
They don't teach anybody this stuff. This is why I don't think, 95% of the population would want to be down with it.
You know what they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. They don't give a damn about that. They don't care whether you know or you don't know. They don't care. They're going to assume jurisdiction over you until you say that you're not. So when you declare what you are automatically saying what you're not. So the one thing that black people or so-called original people, one thing that original people don't want to deal with is the fact that they have no nationality. You cannot be an African American because that whole identifying idiom was created by an agent named Jesse Jackson and another one named Al Sharpton, both FBI informants and worse. You understand? So if you want to associate yourself with that, cool. But there's no way you can be two continents at the same time, both Africa and America. When we know with nationality, we understand that we already in Africa because the western portion of so-called Africa extended all the way over to California. So again, love and light to you. Nationality is the way to go. Hit me up at houseofbhel@hotmail.com. Check out my stuff, my classes on gumroad.com.
I'll throw some annotations on here
and
so people can
check out my website, www.asirthedugateers.com. Support the big homie, support real research. My love to you. Thank you, Queen, for taping this. And again, love and light.
Virginia Company. The Virginia Company refers collectively to a joint stock company chartered by James I on the 10th of April 1606 with the purposes of establishing settlements on the coast of North America. The two companies, called the Virginia Company of London, or the London Company, and the Virginia Company of Plymouth, or Plymouth Company, operated with identical charters but with differing territories. An area of overlapping territory was created within which the two companies were not permitted to establish colonies within 100 miles of each other. The Plymouth Company never fulfilled its charter, and its territory, that later became New England, was at that time also claimed by England. As corporations, the companies were empowered by the Crown to govern themselves, and they ultimately granted the same privilege to their colony. In 1624, the Virginia Company failed. However, its grant of self-government to the colony was not revoked, and either from apathy, indecision, or deliberate purpose, the Crown allowed the system to continue. The principle was thus established that a royal colony should be self-governing, and this formed the genesis of democracy in America. Subarticle, the Plymouth Company. The Plymouth Company was permitted to establish settlements between the 38th parallel and the 45th parallel, roughly between the upper reaches of the Chesapeake Bay and the current U.S.-Canada border. On the 13th of August, 1607, the Plymouth Company established the Popham Colony along the Kennebec River in present-day Maine. However, it was abandoned after about 1 year, and the Plymouth Company became inactive. With the religious pilgrims who arrived aboard the Mayflower, a successor company to the Plymouth Company eventually established a permanent settlement in Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1620 in what is now New England. The London Company. And I should mention that both the Plymouth Company article, which I just read, has a main article, which I'd like to read later, and so does this next subheading, the London Company. By the terms of the charter, the London Company was permitted to establish a colony of 100 miles square between the 34th parallel and the 41st parallel, approximately between Cape Fear and Long Island South, and also owned a large portion of Atlantic Ocean and inland Canada. On the 14th of May, 1607, the London Company established the Jamestown settlement, about 40 miles inland along the James River, a major tributary of the Chesapeake Bay in present-day Virginia. The future of the settlement of Jamestown was precarious for its first 5 years. The president of the 3rd Jamestown Council, Captain John Smith, was both a strong leader and a good diplomat who was able to form a positive relationship with the Native Americans. In 1620, George Calvert asked King James I for a charter for English Catholics to add the territory of the Plymouth Company. Also in 1609, a much larger third supply mission was organized, Rushed into service without the customary sea trials, the new purpose-built ship, the Sea Venture, became flagship of the fleet of 9 ships, with most of the leaders' food and supplies aboard. Notable persons aboard the Sea Venture included the Admiral of the Fleet, George Somers, Vice Admiral Christopher Newport, the new governor for the Virginia colony, Sir Thomas Gates, future author William Starchy, and businessman John Rolfe with his pregnant wife. The third supply convoy encountered a massive storm believed to have been a hurricane, which lasted 3 days and separated them. The Sea Venture was leaking seawater through its new caulking, and Admiral George Somers had it driven aground on a reef to avoid sinking, saving 150 men and women and several dogs, but destroying their ship. The uninhabited archipelago was officially named the Somers Isles, after Admiral Somers, though it was known as Bermuda. From salvaged parts of the Sea Venture, the survivors built 2 smaller vessels, Deliverance and Patience. 10 months later, they continued to Jamestown, leaving several men behind on the archipelago to establish possession of it. Arriving at Jamestown on the 23rd of May, 1610, they found that over 85% of the 500 colonists had perished during what became known as the Starving Time. The Bermuda survivors had anticipated finding a thriving colony at Jamestown and had brought little food or supplies with them. The colonists at Jamestown were saved only by the timely arrival of a supply mission headed by Thomas West, 3rd Baron de la Warr, better known as Lord Delaware, less than 3 weeks later. In 1612, the London Company's royal charter was officially extended to include the Somers Isles as part of the Virginia colony. However, in 1615, the Isles passed to a separate company, the Somers Isles Company, which had been formed by the same shareholders as the London Company. To the disappointment of its investors, the Virginia Company of London failed to discover gold or silver in Virginia. However, the company did establish the trade of various types. The biggest trade breakthrough came when colonist John Rolfe introduced several sweeter strains of tobacco from the Caribbean, rather than the harsh-tasting kind native to Virginia. Rolfe's new tobacco strains led to strong export for the London Company and other early English colonies, and helped balance a trade deficit with Spain. The Jamestown Massacre, which devastated that colony in 1622, brought on unfavorable attention, particularly from King James I, who had originally chartered the company. There was a period of debate in Britain between company officers who wished to guard the original charter and those who wished the company ended. In 1624, the king dissolved the company and made Virginia a royal colony. Heraldry. The armorials of the Virginian merchants were argent, a cross gulls between 4 escutcheons, each regally crowned proper. The first escutcheon in the dexter chief. Okay, it's just talking about the coat of arms for the Virginia Company, as depicted in John Stow's Survey of London. It's interesting, but it's difficult to read.